Thank you for joining me for today's tutorial. We're going to talk about ESHA security and the basics of using ESHA security. ESHA security is a program that allows an administrator to establish and enforce a set of access controls for items in the SQL database that you're using with your Genesis or food processor program. Genesis or food processor will automatically detect if security is installed and activated and will prevent users from opening or modifying items they don't have access to. When you first use ESHA security, it's a good idea to set default access permissions for anyone who has access to the Genesis or food processor program. You can change access for specific groups or users later, and we will go through that. Right now, select the Settings tab and choose Read-Only Access under the Default Access Permission for Items menu. Enable security and click OK. Now we're going to go into specifics. The steps involved are creating a user, creating a role and defining permissions, assigning the user to the role. So click on the Users tab and select New to create a new user. If you're on a Windows NT network, choose NT Authentication. If your administrator has created usernames and passwords specifically for the SQL database, choose that. The truth is, in most cases, you will be selecting the NT Authentication. So here we enter the name, keep ESHA, and type in the user's name, Scott. This doesn't call for a password, so click OK. Now we're going to create a role and define permissions for it. After a role is created, we will add users or assign users to the role, rather than creating individual access permissions for every single user. So click on the Roles and Permissions tab and select New. Type in a role name. For this one, I'm going to assume that there are students who need to have defined permissions. So type in students and click OK. Over here is where we assign permission in the database groups section. So expand this and select highlight students and select fast foods. For fast foods, we're going to have no access at all. So click this button and the fast food is now highlighted in red. For food service, we're going to grant that read-only access, which means they can view the items in that database but cannot modify them. So click the yellow. And for generic foods, they can have full access. So click the green, and it highlights in green. Remember, if we don't assign specific permissions, the default permission we set earlier is in play. And in this case, remember, it's read-only. Now you can create as many roles as you want in the same manner. I'm going to show you one more for teachers. We're going to assume that this role has full access to everything. So click New, type in Teacher, and select this group and click Full Access. Giving access to a folder will also grant the same access to all subfolders, as we can see here with the green highlight. You can also assign where. Now we go back here to the Users tab and highlight Scott and check Students. Now Scott could be a member of both students and teachers, but right now we want Scott just as a member of students, so he has no access to fast foods, read-only access to general foods, and read-write access to generic foods. And of course, read-only access to all the other unassigned food groups. You can also test your access permissions to make sure that they work. So what we're going to do here is enter in a search term and select this here. I know that it's from the fast food database, so I can see that that's been blocked. Now I'm going to try a couple more. This milk chocolate almond milk, this almond milk chocolate is in the generic foods database, so it has full access because we set that. But the baking chips milk chocolate, they are from the brands database, and that is one of the default access folders. Remember, that was read-only. And so we know that our permissions that we set are working now. That concludes this tutorial. Thank you.